Hello and welcome to another session of Lessons from My Mother. We are on week 25, and first of all, Happy New Year to everyone watching. Hope your 2022 finished off well. Hope you had a great new year, and all my blessings and love for the new year for everyone who's watching now or watching later. Um, a lot of things are happening with regards to politics, with regards to the climate, with regards to the business or crypto world. There's a lot of things are taking place. So um, during such times, we try our best to hold on to things that can bring us some comfort or some stability. And one of the things is obviously things that you learn from your parents at that time. That's one of the reasons why I started doing this series on lessons from my mother, because those are things that keep me on the correct path and aligned when things around me are going haywire. So I'm really glad that the new year is here and I'm starting something regarding this, because this is one of the best lessons. And I don't know if one can prioritize the lessons we take from our mother and father, but this is by far one of the best ones. And th- it is no harm in trying, which my mum says about so many things. Um, whether it's about losing weight, or whether it's about traveling, or whether it's about, I want to be a doctor, or I want to try this, or I want to do that. There's always the thought of, well, there's no harm in trying. And then when you show a little bit of commitment to trying that, then it's followed with, well, if you're going to try it out, you have to give it a proper effort. It can't be half-assed. Those are not terms that my mother used, but the word I use is it can't be half-assed. So if you're going to try to do something, you do it. So I have three instances in my life in the last few years where this thing that my mum has taught me always came to the front. Um, my novel, my degree at Oxford, and my moving to Canada all happened because of this thought process that she has. So I'll take you back 6 years. Around this time, 2017, I was all done with Turkey. I was leaving. I was saying, okay, I'm packing my luggage. I'm going to go. I'm done. Everything's gone. Everything's closed. I'm leaving. And I left, and I called my mother and I said, look, do you know what? There's no point of me coming to England and visiting you guys. I think it's unnecessary. I've worked hard for the last 8 years into building a life in Turkey. It doesn't exist anymore. So I'll just go back to Pakistan. I'll just build from ground zero. And she said, why don't you try to come to England? And I said, no. She did just, there's no harm in trying. Just come spend a month with us. And after that, try looking for places here. Try looking for work here. If you don't find anything, then you can always go back. I said, okay. You're my mother. Of course, I love you. I'm going to come and spend some time with you. So I came. And I was, if you've seen my TED talk or if you've seen me, and during that time or even after, you would know that I was suffering from a delayed kind of a PTSD type thing, because I felt like a huge failure at that time, because I thought, oh, I worked so hard and all of it is gone. What do I do now? And I would ask my dad, like, what do I do? Should I go back? And ask my mum, do I feel like a burden? I don't know what's going on. So I was in that zone. So rather than giving me advice over WhatsApp or something, she said, just, there's no harm in moving to England for a month. Just try it. If you don't like it, you can always go to Pakistan. So I moved to England. And then she would talk to me and try to counsel me and discuss things with me. And then she said, one day I told her that, Mum, there's this thing that I saw in a mosque a few years ago, and that led me to construct a bit of a story in my mind, like a novel. I'd love to, I'd love to write it. And she said, well, no time better than the present. Why don't you write it right now? I said, no, writing a novel is so hard. It's like 400 pages. That's over 100,000 words. It's so exhausting. And she said, well, there's no harm in trying, is there? Just write out a plot. write out a plot, and then you see what happens after that. So I spent a day in writing out a plot of the story, and the more I wrote it, the more I got interested in it. So I said, okay, I have a chapter list. I made a whole structure. Um, and then I went to her and I said, Mom, I have a story, but it's so exhausting. She said, oh, well, there's no harm in trying to write a chapter. So why don't you just write 1,000 words before you come down for breakfast? Just write 1,000 words, and that would be it for the day. And then you can apply for jobs or look for masters or PhD places or whatever people do in that time of life. And I said, okay. And I started doing that. And every time I'd come and say, oh, I don't think it's working. She said, there's no harm in trying. Just try it. What do you have to lose? Nothing. Just a few hours of your life. Just try it. You're not doing anything else. You're just applying for jobs in England post-Brexit. Just apply. So I did. I kept doing the writing, and within 3 months I had written 90,000 words. That's a novel. But I wasn't satisfied, so I spent some time in adding more and subtracting. I wrote it longer, then I trimmed it. Now I'm in my third draft, and hopefully I'll be done this time. Hopefully I'll be done this time. But hopefully with my agent and the publisher and everything, it'll be done, and hopefully it becomes something. But the lesson I remember here is that spark where it starts here. Rather than saying, oh, all this weight is on your shoulders and you have to deliver nothing. No, just try it. No harm in trying. And that mentality makes it so simple, relatable, doable. You think, oh, I can at least try once. Oh, I don't think I can run a mile nonstop. No harm in trying. All right, I'll try it. And you end up running half a mile. So you're like, oh, I can run half a mile. Maybe if I work for a week, I would be able to run a mile. And so forth and so forth. Oh, I can't learn Japanese. It's a very difficult language. I don't think I can do it. Well, there's no harm in trying. Why don't you just learn how to say hello? And then you learn how to say, how are you? And within a week, you'll know how to say a few sentences. You may be able to count. Within a month, you may be able to identify 10 things like a table or an apple or a lamp and so forth. And then it just grows. So this thing that she does, and she's done it her whole life, she asks us, do you really want to do it? And we said, yeah, well, start. No harm in trying, start. And you say, where do I start? And she says, anywhere. It doesn't matter where you start. So when I wrote my novel, when I started writing it, I didn't start with chapter 1. I started with chapter 30 or something, 37, and I just started writing because I had a scenario in my mind for that chapter, and I started writing that, and then I built back and built forward, and then I jumped back and forth. And she said, it doesn't matter where you start. You want to lose weight? Doesn't matter. You don't have to hire a trainer. You start by walking to the gym. You start by running at the gym. You start by observing other people and just trying to understand, okay, these are basic fundamental changes I need to make in my life, and then I can go to a trainer or do my own research, start controlling my diet and so forth. But you have to start. Many people are afraid of taking the first step. The first step is the hardest step. Once you take the first step, the rest simply follow. It's simply momentum. The first is always the hardest. The first gear is always the toughest. The fourth gear just moves like that. So she's instilled that in us. And now, thankfully, I have a novel that at least I can work on with agents, editors, and publishers. Hopefully this year it gets published. Pray for me, everyone. The second lesson is Oxford. It was still 6 years ago. And I had heard that one of my friends from Turkey had gotten into the University of Oxford for a PhD. Yusuf Iqbal Oldaç, I love you, because if I hadn't seen your Facebook update, I wouldn't have known. I wouldn't have taken this risk. I wouldn't have gone to my mother. I went to my mother and I said, Mom, there's this guy from my university got into Oxford. And she said, the Oxford? And I said, the Oxford. The University of Oxford. He got into there. And she said, he must be a very smart kid. I said, yeah, he's a smart guy, but by no means a genius. And Yusuf, if you're ever listening to this, this is by no means an insult. I think you're an incredibly smart fellow, but we know what how we associate genius. We think Einstein or Newton is a genius, and neither of us are that. We're practical thinkers, and most of my friends are. I don't have any friends who are geniuses. One of my closest friends went directly from Turkey with a 4.0 GPA, with a full scholarship to Harvard to do his PhD. Then he went to MIT. Then he went to, now he's at Washington. He did 2 summers at CERN in Switzerland. Even he's not a genius. Tansu is a close friend of mine. So we associated that with Oxford, and I said, if Yusuf applied and got in, maybe can I try? And I said to Yusuf, I said, dude, I want to go as well. He said, okay, here's my letter here's my statement of purpose. Read it and just take what you can with it. And I took it, I read it, and I said, okay, this is doable. This isn't rocket science. It isn't beyond my capacity. I could write something like that. And then I went to my mother. I'd spent all the money I had saved in moving and everything, and I had nothing. And I went to my mum and I said, Mum, I don't want to apply anywhere else. Not Florida, not London, not Turkey, not Canada, nowhere. I just want to apply to Oxford and nowhere else. I just want to see what this looks like. I had some applications that I had done or deferred trying to do something before at University of Pennsylvania, University of Central Florida. I had done them, but I wasn't applying for them at that point. And my mum was like, it is Oxford. It's a tough school. I said, yeah, but I just want to try it. I think it's a great school. I just want to try it. And she said, okay, there's no harm in trying. There's no harm in trying. I was afraid. I was full of fear, and I don't struggle with fear that much, but I felt, oh, this is something real. I don't want to lose this. I really want to try something. She said, there's no harm in trying. How much is the application cost? And I said, it's £90. She said, take it from my account. You have to apply. You have to try. If you don't get it, you don't get it, but you have to try. So I did. I wrote to 3 of my professors in Turkey. Normally, they don't respond as quickly, but I remember it was around November 10th in 2017, and the early application deadline was November 17th. And within 5 days, I had 3 reference letters. That's unheard of. But I wrote to them and I said, look, Hujam, which is another word for teacher or professor, I'm applying to Oxford. I just need references. You know me. And they all said, cool, we'll write you a reference. Within 5 days, I had all 3 references. I had my statement of purpose. I had everything done. And I applied within the first deadline. Less than 4 months went by, and then you can watch my TED Talk for a detailed account of this, but I do recall this because I was sitting in a cafe in Pakistan and I was applying for my Canadian immigration. That's the third story I'm going to talk about. And I had received a rejection from the Canadian immigration, and I was like, okay, guess we're sitting in a cafe and applying again. And I sat there and I opened my email, and there was an email from the University of Oxford, and I was like, and I remember my face went like that because the laptop was here. I clicked on it and it said, congratulations, you have been accepted. And I just looked at it and I said, this can't be real. This is a joke. It's the best school in the world. This can't be real. So scroll down, and with admissions emails, they normally have a PDF or 2. One is a college PDF and the other is the admission one. So I opened it and it said, congratulations. You've been accepted to the University of Oxford for an MSc in this and that, and this is where you'll start, and it's very competitive. And I kept reading. It was a page and a half, and it said around, you have until April 2nd or something to respond. And I read it, and there was somebody sitting here, there was somebody sitting here, and we were all like on our laptops. So I closed my laptop, and I said, where's the restroom? And he pointed me, and I quietly got up, quietly. And I went to the loo. I locked the door. And I screamed. But it was a scream without a sound. The hollow scream is louder than an actual scream. If you've ever had a hollow scream, I haven't had many hollow screams. I've seen my father had a hollow scream um, when my grandmother passed away. I remember that, and I've seen a couple of people go through it when you're like, and it goes inwards. I had that, and I cried, and I looked at where I would imagine God to be, because God would be in the sky in that conception, and I said, "You did it! You did it! I'm not going to let you down. You did it!" Because at that time life was quite difficult. I didn't have a direction. I was lost. Had my mother not said to me, "No harm in trying," I wouldn't have applied. I wouldn't have experienced that pure ecstasy of going from, I don't know where my life is going, to being admitted to the greatest school in the world. And it is the greatest school. There are others, Caltech, Harvard, Princeton, Yale, Cambridge, tried to contend. But for the last 10 years, it's the greatest school. It's one of the oldest ones in the world. And it lives up to the name, because my year at Oxford, year and a half, was incredible. And I remember I tried to call my dad, but I think he was traveling. He didn't answer. I called my younger brother. He didn't answer. I called my mum. She didn't answer. So then I headed home, and when I told her in person, she cried and I cried, and it was explosive, and we just kept crying. And there was no money, and we hadn't received scholarship information at that time. And I said, "How much is it?" It was this much. We'll get that. We got it. My mum helped with loans, and I got grants and scholarships and borrowing and everything just to go to this thing, and it changed my life. I have to tell you, it changed my life, because I know exactly what I was going through at that time. I have it in writing, and I would reflect, because I've been writing a diary for 19 years now, and I would reflect and write, and I would say, "Oh, this is what I'm doing." And at that time when it happened, I said, "God is giving me an olive branch. I have to take it." And because of my mom, and because of my dad, and because of God, I was able to go and take that risk and build a better life. It was incredible. But it all started with when she said, "There's no harm in trying." And the same thing happened in the same year. All three things: the book, the Oxford thing, and immigrating to Canada, all happened in 2017. Because I was here in England, and I was applying, and my dad kept saying, "Hey, why don't you apply to Canada to immigrate?" And I said, "I didn't know these applications take very long." And I was like, "Well, you have to apply somewhere, or do you want to go back?" And I said, "Dad, I think I should go back to Pakistan." And he would say, "Son, you haven't lived there in 16 years. What are you going to do? You have no network, you have no friends, you just have your brothers there. They have very different professions. What are you going to do? You have nothing. Try somewhere here." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then my mum, I was speaking to her around October, November 2017, and she said, "Why don't you apply to Canada?" And I said, "Mum, it takes 5, 7 years sometimes." She said, "Yeah, just apply and forget about it. There's no harm in trying. Apply and forget about it. And then if something happens, you do that something, and that's it." So I applied, and I was rejected within a month or so. I was rejected because it said, "Oh, that document is missing." So then I waited a month and applied again with that document. And then they rejected me again. They said, "Oh, the date on that document doesn't match what you wrote in the form." So they rejected that. And then when I was sitting when I was sitting in Pakistan, when this Oxford email happened, that was when I was applying for the third time. I was applying for the third time, like, well, there's harm in trying. And nothing happened during the whole Oxford ordeal. I was there for a year and a bit. And as soon as I left Oxford, I left in September, and in November, I got a letter. "Congratulations, you've been accepted for express entry immigration to Canada. You have this many months to land. Come, land, get your residence permit, and then within a few years become citizen." As soon as I saw that, I cried, went to my father, we cried, went to my mother, we cried, we all prayed, thank God. Pandemic happened in February. I was supposed to leave in March, couldn't leave. And I was thinking, "Mom, maybe this is a sign." She said, "No, this is not a sign. There's no harm in trying. We'll keep trying. We'll keep trying to get to Canada. So I went in June instead. They opened the doors for us. I went in June. I landed. I got my card, and as soon as I got my permit, I got the stamp at the airport, and the guy stamped and said, "Congratulations, you're a Canadian citizen now. If you stay here within a few years, you'll have your passport. You have all the rights and liberties that are afforded to a Canadian citizen. So please live responsibly and respect our values and our traditions. And we were grateful to have you, and we welcome you in Canada." It was a poignant speech from the border agent. Um, and it was incredible. I loved it. It was and I felt, I was like, wow, for somebody who had lived for 8 years in Turkey and then had to leave because of the political situation, and then was just trying to find his feet, and I was welcomed into Canada like this, like it was a bear hug full of love. I was welcomed into it. I felt honored, and I came out of the airport and I was like, wow, this is going to be my home now. Wow, that was amazing. It wouldn't have happened if my mother hadn't said, "There's no harm in trying. You try to apply and just see what happens." And that's what happened. You have to take risks. You have to take a leap of faith. You want something, you take a step towards it. If there's resistance, you try to push a little. If there's more resistance, you try to push a bit more. And depending on how much you want it, either the universe moves out of your way or behind you, or it redirects you. But taking leaps of faith is central to human nature. We were able to build fire. In the Greek myth, Prometheus came and gifted this to us. But in the practical myth, we stumbled upon fire after trying to rub things and seeing sparks and creating fire out of nothing. Imagine if the person, our great ancestor, if they had thought, rubbing 2 rocks or 2 sticks together, no, it's just a spark, nothing can happen, fuck it. There'd be no fire, there'd be no warmth, there'd be no cooked food, there'd be no steam engine, there'd be no brick, there'd be no anything. A lot of our civilization is built on our mastery over the elements, and that mastery started when we started learning how to play and build fire, and to play with it and to use it. A lion can't attack us because we can use man's red flower, as they say in the Jungle Book. Give me the power of man's red flower so I can be like you. So you have to take a leap of faith. So my advice to anybody in 2023, we're here. It is 2023 now. I hope it's better than 2022. If there's something that you're trying to do, there's no harm in trying. Take a leap of faith. Seize the day. Leave no faith in tomorrow. Just try it. Just try it. If it doesn't work out, so what? You lost a day, a month, a week, a year, a decade of your life. You have a lot more going for you. Try it. You might just like it. So this lesson that my mum, she's taught us this from a young age, but just in the last few years, 3 pivotal things that have changed the course of my life have come from this one teaching. That's why I was keeping it, and I was waiting to start the new year with it. And it's the 2nd of January. It's my friend, my best friend, proverbial sister, I'd say, Ksenia Mogilevska's birthday, so happy birthday, Ksenia. Tomorrow is another friend's birthday, Najwa Bumilham. Happy birthday, Najwa. And I have so many friends who are born in early January and late December. A lot of Capricorn friends. So happy birthday to all of you. I hope you have a wonderful one. And to everyone else, just take a leap of faith. And there's no harm in trying. I promise you, you won't regret it. And you live and you learn. So best of luck. And thank you for watching another session of lessons from my mother. I shall see you again next week. Take care.